There in a couple of center lanes, looks like a car fire involved in that as well. 99 headed east, 2920, blocking some lanes as well with an accident.
Support comes from Base Power, offering electricity plans with whole home battery backup to help protect against power outages as Houston's storm season begins this spring. Eligibility details at basepowercompany.com/NPR.
Muggy morning, and we're going to see higher in the low 80s after this fog burns off. Sunshine 60 for the low tonight, more fog tonight into Saturday morning. Hovering around 80 for the weekend. It's going to be dry all week into possibly next weekend. Right now we're sitting 65, Galveston 64 here at the University of Houston. Listen anywhere we're streaming live online. It's KUHF Houston News 88.7. The service of the University of Houston. Houston Matters starts right now, 9 o'clock.
The state-appointed HISD Board of Managers voted last night to close 12 district schools. And while the board voted unanimously, the meeting itself was intense. I'm Craig Cohen. Today on Houston Matters, Houston Public Media's education reporter Bianca Seward fills us in.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is a production of Houston Public Media with support from Baylor College of Medicine.
Also this hour, some of the money in the state's voucher program is headed to parents who homeschool their kids. We discuss some of the practical considerations surrounding homeschooling. Plus, a much-publicized new offering will be available at this year's rodeo, Beyoncé's Mom's Gumbo. This week's non-expert panel weighs in on that and other intrigues in the news on the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll start with a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Former President Bill Clinton is set to appear before the House Oversight Committee today. Lawmakers are expected to question him about his connections to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace told CNN that she plans to ask the former president about Epstein's private island.
The victims I've spoken to and their family members have not exonerated people like former President Bill Clinton, who's denied being on the island, but I will bring out some documents today that show that Jeffrey Epstein was directing victims and or witnesses to deny he ever was at the island. And I think this is there are going to be a lot of people that need to come before the Oversight Committee.
Today's closed-door deposition comes a day after former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton testified before the committee. NPR has learned that Vice President J.D. Vance is set to meet today with Oman's foreign minister, who has served as the mediator in ongoing U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports the administration has yet to provide details about its specific objectives for taking military action against Iran.
President Trump looks focused on two potential types of targets. One is bigger, aimed at destabilizing or overthrowing a regime. Another would be more limited, such as strikes against nuclear targets or the ballistic missile program. Matthew Kroenig, a senior director at the Atlantic Council, says if he were advising the president, he'd suggest the latter.
I would advocate for a more limited strike and communicate to the regime that this is just a limited strike to try to induce them to engage in token retaliation and hope that the conflict can de-escalate.
Trump is not the first U.S. president to deal with this issue. Former President Barack Obama was widely criticized for the nuclear deal that he reached, and George W. Bush labeled Iran part of his axis of evil. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
Stocks on Wall Street opened sharply lower this morning after a report showing inflation at the wholesale level was higher than expected last month. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow fell nearly 800 points in early trading.
Wholesale prices in January were up 2.9% from a year ago. They jumped by 0.5% between December and January, which is a bigger increase than forecasters were expecting. Retailers and wholesalers who absorbed some price hikes in the past are now passing more of that cost along to customers. The fintech company Block is cutting more than 40% of its workforce. CEO Jack Dorsey says the company, formerly known as Square, can get by without those 4,000 workers, thanks to efficiency gains from artificial intelligence. A federal judge has ruled the IRS broke the law more than 42,000 times when it shared confidential taxpayer information with immigration authorities. The ruling comes in a lawsuit brought by the Center for Taxpayer Rights. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Joyce Foundation, committed to advancing racial equity and economic mobility for the next generation in the Great Lakes region. Learn more at joycefdn.org. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. Today is the last day of early voting for the primary elections across Texas. It's been a busy period of early voting compared to previous years. Democrats are outpacing Republicans right now in Harris County and across the state in terms of turnout. However, turnout is also high on the Republican side. During the first week of early voting, more than 1 million Texans cast ballots. Election day is coming up next Tuesday. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and there will be more polls open on Tuesday compared to this early voting period. Houston ISD's state-appointed Board of Managers voted unanimously to close 12 schools in the district last night. The decision has sparked major backlash from the community. Tensions at the meeting quickly escalated. Daisy Mariano, a parent at Port Houston Elementary, says she believes the board had already made up their mind.
They had so many parents out here, so many parents, and they chose not to listen.
Stay here. Our education reporter Bianca Seward was at the meeting, and she's joining Houston Matters here momentarily. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo's barbecue contest kicked off last night. More than 250 teams are competing over the next few days. Here's our Natalie Weber.
Brianna Hansbrough and her mother Sabrina came to the Rodeo's barbecue cook-off for the first time this year.
Brisket, give me some jalapeno sausage, like that. Yeah, all of that. Yeah, that's what I. Ribs, always ribs.
And street corn.
Brianna lives in Dallas and came to visit her parents, who moved here from Chicago. Here's her mother, Sabrina.
We just moved here 3 years ago, so we're excited for this whole Houston life.
Festivities continue through Saturday. More than 200,000 people attended last year's barbecue cook-off. I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
Sports last night, the Rockets beat the Orlando Magic 113-108. Houston has won 3 games in a row. Star player Kevin Durant was magnificent yesterday. He had 40 points after hitting exactly half of the 28 shots he took. He also made all 10 of his free throws yesterday. The Rockets are on the road to play the Miami Heat tomorrow in their next game. I'm Matt Harab, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. Thanks for joining us here on News 88.7 and Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, the good, the bad, and the ugly, homeschooling in Houston, and we preview the next installment of the Museum of Fine Arts Houston's Movies Houstonians Love series. First, though, the Houston Independent School District voted unanimously last night to close 12 campuses, a decision that drew crowds of angry parents to a tense hours-long public meeting. The vote comes as new data reveals more than 100 HISD school buildings may be in such poor condition they need to be replaced entirely. News 88.7's Bianca Seward covers education and was at last night's Board of Managers meeting and joins us with more. Good morning.
Good morning, Craig.
This was a meeting, again, of the state-appointed Board of Managers who face a lot of scrutiny for pretty much every move they make. Can you set the scene for us? What was the atmosphere like inside the room?
Yeah, what you said. The board is not necessarily very popular within the community, and last night's meeting became incredibly emotional. There's usually pretty high tensions at these school board meetings. A lot of parents and students and teachers sign up to speak, but last night was a step above what we've seen before. One parent was detained by an HISD officer and escorted out. The room really devolved into chaos, and the board had to recess for a few minutes to allow calm to kind of resume so that the public speakers could finish speaking. It was very tense. The anger from the community that showed up was really palpable in the room.
The board voted 9-0 to close the 12 schools. Can you first tell us which schools we're talking about?
Yeah, that's going to be Alcott Elementary, Briscoe Elementary, Burris Elementary, Franklin Elementary, Henderson NQ Elementary, Port Houston Elementary, Ross Elementary, Cage Elementary, Fleming Middle School, McReynolds Middle School, Hobby Elementary, and Gulfton Middle College. Some of those will be co-located, and some of those will be closed permanently and transferring the students to other campuses.
Given how much public opposition there was, were you surprised that there was a unanimous vote, or was that outcome inevitable?
We haven't seen the Board of Managers step outside of what Mike Miles has requested since the state takeover. So it wasn't unexpected to see the board align themselves with Mike Miles' proposal. Additionally, school closures, as Mike Miles has outlined, have become kind of a necessity because the district has been losing funding from dipping enrollment, and the aging infrastructure in some of these schools is really undeniable. So it's not necessarily a surprise. I think last night we were maybe expecting to see possibly the board delay the vote. That's what a lot of speakers had shown up to ask them for, some begging for them to delay the vote, because we've only gotten about 2 weeks' notice since Miles made the announcement that these schools would close permanently.
Despite that limited notice, district officials say they held more than 20 meetings with parents of affected schools before the vote last night. What have you heard from parents about the district's engagement process?
Yeah, the district said they held 25 meetings and touched base with about 700 community members over the last 2 weeks. When I spoke to parents who were able to go to those meetings, and again, media was not allowed or invited to come to any of these meetings, they described those meetings more as transition and informational meetings, less about community input and feedback and more about what would happen when this vote is passed. So a lot of the parents didn't feel like the input was being gathered in a meaningful manner and that anything was being taken back to the district to really discuss how to move forward.
As I said, new data is showing more than 100 schools may need to be replaced just based on their facility condition scores. Does HISD have any plan for what comes next with those buildings?
Yeah, they've talked about it in the last couple of meetings that 96 buildings in HISD have a poor facility condition index. It's one of the ways that they evaluate these facilities as to how they are suitable to house students and keep moving forward. We haven't seen too much of the plan about how to move forward, but the district is very aware that these, just because there are 12 schools that are closing, these are the worst of the worst. There are still a lot of buildings that need attention. In Miles's presentation a couple weeks ago, he outlined how expensive it can be to tackle these schools. A renovation can cost around $40 million, and rebuilding a school entirely can be nearly double that. So it's an expensive venture.
Houston City Council discussed the topic of the closures at its meeting this week, and in an exchange between Mayor Whitmire and Councilmember Edward Pollard, it became clear that Superintendent Miles had been asked to attend that City Council meeting, but declined. Of course, Council has no particular authority over HISD or Miles, but how about at last night's HISD Board of Managers meeting? Was Miles present and engaged there?
Yeah, he was present, and I saw him nodding along and listening to speakers as there were nearly 80 of them last night. But what I found interesting was he gave a short preamble to the presentations for closures, but then let his deputy superintendent, newly anointed deputy superintendent Kristen Hull, and another district official kind of lead the explanation, the presentations about the closures, how they came to these decisions, what will be happening, what they learned from community input, and how they were amending some of the plans based on that community input. But largely, Mike Miles spoke for a few minutes and then kind of turned to his other leaders to lead the charge there. He was it took a back seat last night, it appeared.
Meanwhile, 4 A-rated HISD high schools, this includes Kinder HSPVA and the Energy Institute, they are being handed over to nonprofit partners. This is under the Texas Partnerships Law. What does that law call for?
Yeah, that's the 1882 partnerships, and that was another thing on the consent agenda last night. Got a little swallowed up in the news of the closures, but that will officially move forward. And HISD is using the 1882 partnerships, which allows schools to partner with charters, nonprofits, other groups for increased autonomy. And they're allowing 4 highly rated, high-performing schools in the district to move forward with this. What we're going to want to be looking out for as these develops is the kind of contracts that the charters and other groups develop with these high schools to see what kind of increased autonomy they'll be getting and in what ways these relationships will look like. They can increase funding to the district, so they add a little bit of money per pupil, so that can help some of the budget deficit that we're facing.
Back to the closures for families whose schools are closing. What does happen next?
Yeah, there are a lot of moves that happen next. And one of the things that was a top concern for Port Houston elementary students was ways that they'll be able to transport their kids to the new locations. The district had made an effort to find transfer campuses that were no more than a mile or roughly a mile away from the current campus that those students attend. But at Port Houston Elementary, most of those parents walk their kids to school, and the added mile in a neighborhood that's quite industrial and often lacks sidewalks was concerning for them. So something we learned last night is that because of that community input and because of the concern there, they will now be offering shuttles at closed campuses morning and afternoon to help get those kids to their new campuses. So that added journey or that added commute won't be as difficult as some had assumed.
What did the manager say about what would happen to teachers and staff at the schools that are being closed?
Yeah, they have been very clear that if you're a staff teacher in good standing, meaning you're getting good evaluations and you would be returning next year to that school, you will be guaranteed relocation in the district. And we know from our reporting that last week, HISD moved forward with surveying teachers. This was ahead of the board vote, so ahead of the official closures. They began surveying teachers as to where they may want to be relocated to try to find new places for these teachers, which will be based on, skill level, but also availability at other campuses.
When can we expect these closures to begin?
They will officially happen at the end of this school year. Things are underway already. Meetings are happening. There's a full calendar for the next few months. But on June 4th, all of the campuses will officially close their doors permanently. Miles did mention that there would be some sort of plans for honoring the campuses or kind of a remembrance, something to celebrate their time.
Bianca Seward covers education for Houston Public Media. Bianca, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, a different approach to education. We discuss homeschooling. Practically, how does it work? Stay with us as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 a month or more, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
From listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine, Baylor's work centers on advancing health and medicine through research, education, and patient care.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Metro, introducing the Ride Metro Fare Card. The Ride Metro Fare system replaces the Metro Q Fare Card for bus and rail fares. Details at ridemetro.org/fare system.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Craig Cohen. While much of the attention of the state's new school voucher program centers on money being fueled to private schools to help offset some of the tuition they charge, some of the initial $1 billion set aside is designed to help parents who homeschooled their children as an alternative to either public or private education. There are lots of reasons parents homeschool their kids, and there are lots of programs and resources of varying quality to help them do so. While we've discussed those reasons and resources before, today we're going to focus on more practical questions, what it's like day to day to homeschool a child or to be homeschooled. And to help us do that, we're talking with folks kind of from either end of that perspective. Joining us now is Tess Ulrey, Coalition for Responsible Home Education Executive Director, and Amber Swirsky, a homeschool teacher and mother of 5 and owner of the Homeschool Store. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And as we chat, we welcome your questions and comments about the day-to-day experience of being homeschooled or teaching at home at 713-440-8870 or talk at houstonmatters.org. Amber, when did you first start homeschooling your children?
So my oldest son is 13, and we started when he was around 3.
And how has the experience changed over the years?
Well, I mean, it's been definitely eye-opening, and, there's been a lot of growth on my end as a mom, as a teacher. I'm not a teacher by trade, so,
right.
You learn a lot of things along the way. So, doing a lot of research, as a homeschool parent, you wear a lot of hats. So, your teacher, your mom, your nurse, your chauffeur, your, a researcher, you just wear all the hats.
I imagine maintaining any kind of a schedule is probably just about out the window. Is there, how much do you try and structure and say, you know what, during these hours we're focusing on this, or how much of it is, let's just see how it all goes day to day, because I am wearing all these hats.
Well, it's funny because in the homeschooling community, there are so many different types of homeschoolers as well. So, there are very structured homeschoolers, there are unschoolers, there are deschoolers.
Okay, no, wait a minute, what does that mean?
So the structured homeschoolers, they, either will try to kind of create like the school environment at home, right. And stick to a very rigid schedule. Children, they need, schedules, they need routine, which, yes, it's all true. And then the other spectrum of it is, homeschooling, we just don't have a care in the world. We just kind of go with the flow, do what we need to do, school wherever we want, which is also true. So it very much depends on the personalities, on, what works for each family. So we've done it all.
Okay.
We've held a schedule, and we've not had a schedule.
I'm curious how much oversight as a homeschool parent do you try to have, and how much oversight is there from the state of Texas too about what it is you do and how you structure it or don't structure it?
That's the beauty of homeschooling as well. There's, no oversight.
Nothing at all.
Not in Texas.
No
not in
forms
Texas.
to fill out. No promises that your child has reached a certain grade level or anything like that. You can just kind of do in whatever order and whatever way you want.
Yes. So in Texas, the only thing you are legally required to do is teach math, language arts, and that your curriculum is bona fide. That's it. You do not have to record any grades. You don't have to do standardized testing. You don't have to do a certain amount of hours of homeschooling, certain amount of days of homeschooling. There's nothing.
Were you homeschooled yourself?
Nope. I am a product of the public school system.
Okay. Tess Ulrey, how about you?
I am a homeschool graduate myself, yes. So I represent the Coalition for Responsible Home Education. We're actually an organization that was founded by homeschool alumni, continues to be completely staffed by homeschool alumni, and my board is all homeschool alumni as well.
How would you describe the pros and cons of the homeschooling experience from the perspective of a former homeschool student?
Yeah, I think like what was just mentioned, homeschooling can vary so much family to family, right? There's some of those families that are trying to recreate a school environment. Some of them are unschoolers. And then when you think about that, kind of the motivations behind homeschooling, that's a lot different for people too. There's the pragmatic reasons. Maybe that's a better idea because of the school system, or sometimes it's, ideologically motivated. Maybe that's religiously motivated. So there is a massive spectrum of experiences in homeschooling from alumni. And really, like was mentioned, even in that oversight, like how much does the state support or kind of look after homeschoolers, that changes a lot too. So it's hard to have one size fits all kind of an experience.
What was what I gather is was a largely one-on-one attention kind of world for you. Was that something that you see as primarily an advantage, or were there any circumstances where you're like, it's great that I'm getting all this attention, but I kind of wouldn't mind if maybe I could get a little bit of a break from it once in a while?
Yeah, I think that there are of course, pros and cons. But one thing that we know as homeschool alumni, and proven through research as well, is that a lot of times homeschoolers will have trouble with that kind of transition into whether they're transitioning into college or something after school. When you're inside a school system, you're very used to the system of the school, and that system then echoes out into the workplace, into secondary or higher education, and so. My organization does a lot of work to try and kind of support and bridge that gap because it definitely exists.
Were your parents your homeschool teachers?
They were. So my mother was our homeschool teacher. like a lot of homeschoolers, I'm from a big family. I'm the oldest of 5 girls. That makes a lot of homeschool families nod when you hear the big family part of
Right.
it. But yeah, so my both my parents were involved in my education, as well as my sisters, and I ultimately graduated from being homeschooled.
Did it ever create any issues that sometimes your mom was your teacher and sometimes your mom was your mom? Or was it all part and parcel of the same thing?
It is. That's an interesting thing to reflect on as an adult, especially. So I think that while I was able to access, homeschool co-ops, so some of those sort of connection opportunities, that was really important for me, and I think should be prioritized from homeschooling families because, in school, we don't expect one teacher to teach all subjects, but then in homeschooling, we somehow expect mom to teach all subjects and be mom and all of those other roles as well.
Yeah, Amber, let me flip that question a little bit. Is it always ever a challenge to sometimes realize that sometimes this is your child and sometimes this is your student? Or do you, again, not think of them as separate considerations?
Honestly, I really don't. And it's, I'm trying to figure out how to word this kindly, because as a mom, it is my responsibility. It is my job to make sure that my children are educated. And if they were in the public school system, they would just be going to the school, and I would place that responsibility on the teachers to be teaching them. But then that's out of my control. I don't know what they're actually learning. Right. And so at home, it is my job, and because I have such a desire that they learn and they learn well, I get to, that motherly nurturing instinct kicks in, and I really get to just focus on each individual child, their each individual needs. They all learn so differently and on their own paces and certain strengths and weaknesses that, I can kind of hone in on. And so they can't do that in a public school classroom. And so at home, I can do that. So I don't see it a distinction between, mom and teacher. For me, it's just all one role.
Well, and I think it's probably fair to say that most people, regardless of whether their background is in public or private education or homeschooling or anything else, would say that parents are their first and most important teachers, and really teachers throughout their lives.
Absolutely.
So that never changes.
Exactly.
Right. How are academic readiness and skill levels? How do you evaluate that?
So there are some publishers that will have assessments that you can give your kid, but I mean, you just keep track of your child and kind of where their skills are. I had one child that is, very type A and was ready to start school when he was 3. And, of course, a lot of it is learning through play. And he excelled and he did well. He is on a very much accelerated route now. And my 5-year-old has absolutely zero desire to do anything. And I can sit there and I can push and I can try, but ultimately that creates rifts in my relationship with her as, parent-daughter. So I'm not interested in that. So you have to just know kind of where they are, developmentally, right. Not just academically, how they are developing as just a human. And she's just not ready for it right now. That's not to say we're not, still trying to teach certain concepts. We still do our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s in a, more happy way, and not super structured right now because she don't want that right now.
We have a question from one of our viewers on our Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Says, surely kids need social interaction with other students. Does this way of teaching stunt the growth of students' social skills?
This is one of the biggest concerns that parents come in to the homeschool store asking is about the social interaction. And honestly, everybody views homeschoolers as, 50, 80 years ago, Little House on the Prairie type antisocial individuals. And it is not so today. The amount of socialization that is available to homeschoolers is insane.
There are homeschool organizations. There are social opportunities for homeschool kids
so
to get
much
together,
so.
right?
And I would even argue even more so than the public school system because, kids that are in school, they're in school for 8 hours a day or more, where the only socialization and interaction they get is with kids that are in that classroom where most of the time, they have to raise their hands to, speak and, do this or that or the other. And in the homeschool community, you have co-ops, you have hybrid programs, you have play dates, you have clubs, so many things that are available to you. Plus, not to mention that homeschooling is so much more efficient. So you are able to accomplish so much more in such a short amount of time. You can be done with school by lunchtime. And then you have the rest of the day to do whatever it is you want to do, which allows for these children to really develop interests and skills in so many other areas of life. So if, they're really into theater, well, guess what? Sign them up for Christian youth theater programs and, they have their socialization. There are clubs, there are programs, there are sports, there are so many more things that they really do get to spend all of their time on.
Let's take a call. We have Jamie on the line with a question. Jamie, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. My question's about whenever the students graduate from homeschool programs, do they typically test for a GED since so many jobs require them to have a high school diploma or GED equivalent? Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the call and for the question. Tess, can you speak to that?
Yeah. So from an alumni perspective, this is really, really challenging. And this is one of the places where, frankly, my organization calls on states to do a little bit more to support students. Sometimes a GED is required. In a state like Texas, it's interesting because, parents essentially issue that diploma. Now it's going to be up to an individual college, it's going to be up to an individual university or an individual job if they want to, accept that or not. While I think a lot of parents have great intentions in sort of, assigning that diploma, it's also challenging because there is no real standard of that diploma.
Tess Ulrey is a former homeschool student and executive director of the Coalition for Responsible Home Education. Amber Swirsky is a homeschool teacher and mother of 5 and owner of the Homeschool Store. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And just ahead, still more education news. We discuss Bible-infused curriculum among our topics on this week's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and YouTube.
This week on This American Life, as David will tell you.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Austin's Macomb School of Business, offering the weekend MBA at Houston. Campus visit February 28th. Details at texasmbaevents.com. Make it here.
Houston Matters with Craig Cohen is made possible in part by Ellen Benninghoven and Dr. Michael Schaefer, and with gifts from listeners like you. Sunshine 83 for the high 66 right now here at News 88.7.
A lot can happen in a week. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Jack Young, Artistic Director of the Houston Shakespeare Festival and head of the University of Houston's Professional Actor Training Program.
Good morning.
Joy Sewing, news columnist for the Houston Chronicle, and Raul Ramos, Associate Professor of History at UH.
Hi,
Jack,
Craig.
Joy, Raul, hello, welcome.
Morning. Howdy.
Panel, the State Board of Education Wednesday approved changes, some 4,200 of them, to its elementary and secondary school curriculum. The changes to the Bible-infused Bluebonnet learning curriculum came this week after an initial vote was delayed in January. Board members then cited copyright concerns, formatting errors, and typos that needed to be fixed. It's not clear what it will cost ultimately to make the changes, but you can rest assured taxpayers will bear that burden. The Reading and Language Arts curriculum, first approved in 2024, attracted national attention then for its references to the Bible and Christianity. According to the TEA, those references make up only a fraction of the curriculum, but analysis from Rice's Baker Institute finds the reading curriculum skews heavily in favor of Christianity. As the Texas Tribune's Jaden Edison reported this week, its critics are also concerned the materials downplay America's history of racism and slavery. Corrections to Bible-infused K-8 curriculum have been approved, and taxpayers will foot the bill. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Jack Young, start us off.
I think it's ugly 6 ways from zero. I don't know how many ways. Okay, if you're going to have an agenda, at least spell it AGENDA. It would be great if you could at least advance it in a way that I don't know which way to start to get this on a cleaner track. So that's about as far as I can go with it. It's Texas is a lot bigger state than just the Christian mindset that it might have. I did see a couple things on Facebook where folks were showing how places that were mandated to put the Ten Commandments up on that same wall had all sorts of other philosophical points of view that placed it, at least in some context, that it was one among many. That was a pretty cool thing, but I don't think that was somewhere within the 4,200 mistakes. I mean, I hope the count was accurate in how many mistakes they made, because maybe we need to go back and count again to make sure all 4,200 are corrected. Are we sure that's not 8,400? I mean, they only counted half of them. So, yeah, I'm out.
Who's to say?
Good, bad, or ugly, Joyce Owen?
I agree. It's bad and ugly. When this was very controversial when it was passed, and now here we are, and it looks like, from what I'm understanding, that schools have an option to opt into it, but if they don't, the ones who opt into it get a financial benefit, right?
I think it's $60 per pupil, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You could sell donuts, though.
Yes. So basically bribing to
Well, if you have 1,000 students, that's $60,000 more a year. It's you hire another teacher.
$60 divided into 4,200 mistakes is.
But here's the thing: is that if you know that this is so controversial. It seemed like there should have been due diligence to make sure that there were no mistakes. The TEA is saying that the factual errors are minimal. And it just to me, it continues to signal concern or lack thereof concern for students, what they're learning, and it's all to push an agenda, which is another form of indoctrination. I said it.
You got $70, 70 mistakes per dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
the answer to your question is 14.2857 and
okay.
Remainder. Good, bad, or ugly, Raul?
Well, I have this feeling. It feels very familiar. They rushed it. Clearly, this is a sloppy job, and we're kind of getting used to that with AI slop everywhere. And I think our children deserve better. And in terms of correcting errors, I mean, that's not the errors they're pointing out is not the central error, which is that it's a missed opportunity to find out about our neighbors, to instill curiosity and empathy in our kids, and rather than essentially turning public schools into Sunday schools. I think there'd be a lot of Sunday school teachers that probably disagree with that curriculum as well. So this is not popular.
Panel, when the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo kicks off on Monday, a new food vendor with an old recipe will take part. Beyonce's mother, Tina Knowles, says she will serve a family favorite at the fairgrounds at Mama Tina's Gumbo. Yes, Knowles and the rest of the family has talked about her gumbo for years. As Cron Culture reporter Jamil David notes, the recipe is, quote, familiar to the way the gumbo masters in David's family and community prepare their own version and lacks unnecessary additives that whack gumbo always seems to feature. I believe he noted corn as an example.
Corn?
Corn should not be in gumbo.
At all.
But you'll be able to judge for yourself. Mama Tina's Gumbo at the rodeo. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Joy.
Okay, so I have to come clean. I am an expert on this.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Okay.
Haven't sampled or had.
We'll allow
had-
you to give your
Okay.
opinion anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So haven't had Mama Tina's gumbo in her home at her dinner table. I would have to say it's pretty doggone good. And I'm excited for this. I'm excited for her. I have been covering that family since the girls were teens. So it's nice to see her make this transition into this, and it's about time. So I'm excited.
Yeah, the ingredients and the recipe itself seem pretty straightforward, right?
You know what? I love a good bowl of gumbo, and she has a pretty good one.
Okay.
First-hand knowledge.
Good, bad, or ugly, Raul?
Well, as a non-expert, I was thinking about what these whack ingredients and unnecessary additives, which did remind me a little bit of the movement to get rid of additives in general and go back to basics. So I was going to co-opt the MAGA movement and call it "Make Amazing Gumbo Again."
Okay.
Yeah, it was,
Nah.
my wife said I shouldn't say
Nah.
that either.
Leave it over there.
Jamil, David's description there reminded me of other traditional dishes that people seem to incorporate ingredients into. We're like, what are you even doing? Like I'm hearing more and more about, and not so much that it's happening more and more, so much as I'm hearing people outraged about the possibility that somebody's putting raisins in potato salad, as an example. And I share that outrage. But anyhow, good, bad, or ugly, Jack.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my brain back from the raisins. And I will sit here as the complete ignorant person when it comes to gumbo. I know it's over there, and it does show up on this side of the state line and over here. And it's great for keeping it simple, stupid, the KISS method. And sometimes Houston is so crazy about food that why don't we wreck two other cuisines into it and come up with some great fusion? And fusion is great sometimes in a nuclear reactor that it could make power things. And sometimes it blows up. And so I'm all for simple ain't easy.
Yeah.
To make things simply actually takes a lot of care and attention. And so I will follow your good lead, ma'am. If you're saying this is the way it's done and it's done well, then okay, that's where we should be.
To me, it seems like the debate over gumbo should be about which traditional ingredients to include and which ones you may choose not to. For example, I am a big fan of chicken and sausage gumbo.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of some other traditional ingredients that can go into gumbo, so I kind of stick to that. I think I'm allowed in the room.
Which ones are you stepping clear of?
The fishier
Like
items.
the shrimp and crab.
Shrimp and crab. It's just it's not for me. But is that okay, or do you feel like that? No, those have to be a part of it.
No, I think you have your seafood and then you have chicken and sausage. I think it's a preference.
Yeah.
I'm not from Louisiana. I'm not a gumbo aficionado, but I don't like okra in my gumbo.
That was my
That's
question.
fair.
That was my question.
But I have learned that if you cook it the right way, it's not slimy. So
yeah.
I've learned that.
Okay, you're going to have to introduce me to those folks because I've yet to found that. And they're like, no, it's really great. I'm like, I'm sorry. Oh, that's not the one. It's a different one. Like, okay, that's the one I don't do.
Finally, panel, a new study published in the journal Science just last week finds baby chicks may link certain sounds with shapes just like human beings do. As NPR's Nell Greenfield-Boyce reported, researchers conducted a set of experiments that seem to suggest baby chickens, like humans, associate the nonsense word booba with roundness and kiki with spikiness. In one experiment, the chicks were first taught to expect food when going behind a panel decorated with a shape that was both blobby and spiky. They were then shown a blob-like shape on one panel and a spiky one on another, and the researchers then played either the booba or kiki sound repeatedly and watched as the chicks significantly preferred to go to the rounded shape when they heard booba and the spiky shape when they heard kiki. This booba-kiki effect has been studied for decades, as it turns out, and has been demonstrated in 4-month-old human infants, but could not be replicated in baby chimpanzees or gorillas. But now with chickens, apparently they distinguish the sounds and connect them with the corresponding shapes. Booba or kiki? Just ask a baby chicken. Is this good, bad, or ugly, Raul?
Well, I have to say, I kind of expect this because when I was a kid, I grew up in San Antonio, and we get in the station wagon as a family and go up to San Marcos to Aquarina Springs. I don't know if you all ever went to Aquarina Springs when it was a thing. It was this little park in San Marcos that had mermaids, and Ralph the swimming pig was part of it, and it had a chicken that would play tic-tac-toe. And that tic-tac-toe playing chicken would win every time. It blew me away. I mean, this is like 9-year-old.
Wait a minute, against who?
Against, like, you would get up there and play against the chicken, and
you'd lose tic-tac-toe.
I mean, this chicken was so good.
To anybody,
this
much like
chicken was brilliant. I don't know. I was also like 7 or 6. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, and I was just amazed that this chicken could play tic-tac-toe. So yeah, I'm not surprised by this at all.
All right.
Okay, I was wondering where we were going to cycle back. Okay.
Yeah, no. Chickens can do this. They can play tic-tac-toe, and they can understand human language.
Good, bad, or ugly, Jack?
Poker and bridge may be beyond them, but tic-tac-toe they
Yes,
said. Okay.
absolutely.
I'm somewhat befuddled, I suppose, and maybe we've only just started these tests because I've got students that can't tell the difference between booba and tiki, so maybe they haven't had this lesson as infants, and that's why I'm having challenges at graduate level, because they haven't had the training of booba and kiki. Okay, cool. So maybe I'll start trying that in some of my work now with some of the students to kind of catch them up on the spiky kiki and the round booba.
Well, when you need them to enter stage left, make sure there's a rounded entrance.
There we go.
And say booba.
Yes.
And when you need them to enter stage right, have a spiky entrance and say kiki and see what
great.
happens.
And stage combat stuff that we do, I think the kiki is working out really well. But the other stuff, I'm not. Maybe it's where we're missing out on the booba stuff. That's not going so good.
All right. Good, bad, or ugly, Joy?
I don't know. It's interesting, I guess. But when you say booba, that sounds round.
It's like Labubu.
It sounds right. Like, exactly.
Yeah, I was thinking Labubu.
And it's just, I would be curious, like, what was the intonation in the voice? Booba, kiki sounds like like spiky and. I don't know.
I taught at Duke University, which has 2 campuses, and it was originally the men's campus and the women's campus. And the women's campus was all Georgian architecture, which was all curvilinear and domes. And the men's campus was all Gothic and all spiky and up and like, okay, did we need to make this any more apparent that the sciences are over here with the spikes and the humanities are over here with the curve?
I don't know if it's related or not, but there used to be a public television series called Booba. Mm-hmm. And the characters of Booba were blobby. Yeah. And so there might be a relationship to this here. All I know is, as somebody who programmed a public television station for a number of years, I found there was very little viewership for it during the day, but when I played it at 3 o'clock in the morning, ratings went through the roof.
Right, that 420 was probably going really, really well.
About 4:20 a.m. went really, really,
really
really well. Like, it was a Booba Teletubbies hour, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Chickens.
Jack Young is artistic director of the Houston Shakespeare Festival and heads the University of Houston's professional actor training program. Joy Sowing's a news columnist for the Houston Chronicle. Raul Ramos is an associate professor of history at UH. Jack, Joy, Raul, thank you very much.
Thanks. You, Chris.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
My name is Bill Varick, and I drive a Mini Cooper with a 9-foot space shuttle on board. It's the Mini 905. You might have seen it driving around Clear Lake City. This is actually my second art car with a space shuttle theme. The first was the shuttle van, and I did that pretty much because the profile of a Dodge Caravan looked like a space shuttle. The shuttle is built with a plywood base with the basic wing shape that you might see with the space shuttle icons. It then has some steel structuring for the fuselage, and then the rest of it is a lot of sculpted foam and a lot of boat epoxy. But it's pretty detailed and pretty accurate to scale, about 1/12, 1/13 scale. The shuttle weighs about 90 pounds. And while that's not real heavy, it's really cumbersome when you're trying to put it on top of a mini Clubman. This is my daily driver. The shuttle's up there most of the time. When it's not, it's in my shop getting refurbed. It's really, really fast, but I can't go that fast with a 9-foot shuttle. Because I built the airfoil wings as closely to scale as possible, there's actually quite a bit of lift, so the attachment had to be really, really robust. I've calculated that if I go 58.3 miles per hour, that's the same as a Mach 1. I've always been a space geek, and I grew up in Houston back in the day when if you went to public school, you got on a yellow school bus every year and went to NASA. I have a lot of people take my picture while they're driving, even on the Gulf Freeway at 75 miles an hour, which is a little troubling. I meet a lot of people in parking lots. I have a lot of people put their business card on my car when I'm not there, but I've met astronauts, engineers, people whose parents worked on the shuttle program who are just really, really happy to have a shuttle flying around the Clear Lake City area. I'm Bill Varick, and you're listening to Houston Matters with Craig Cohen.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Episode of Party Politics at 8. Great Performances presents Grammy winner and jazz vocalist Samara Joy, performing live at London's legendary Royal Albert Hall tonight at 8:30 on TV8.
Ellen Benninghoven and Dr. Michael Schaefer, proud sponsors of Houston Matters with Craig Cohen. You can tune in Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. here on News 88.7. 83 for the high, 66 right now, 950. It's News 88.7.
The latest screening in the Museum of Fine Arts Houston's Movies Houstonians Love series is tonight. It's Wim Wenders' 2023 film Perfect Days. It was nominated for a Best International Feature Oscar and tells the story of an ordinary man in Tokyo who seems content in his life cleaning toilets until a series of events reveal his past. Presenting the film is Rich Levy, executive director of the literary organization Inprint. Levy is retiring later this year after more than 30 years with Inprint. He joins us now to talk about the film he's presenting and his years on the literary scene here in the Houston area. Rich, welcome to Houston Matters.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Let's talk about the movie first. What speaks to you about the film Perfect Days?
Well, it's such a joy to watch a film that is sort of bereft of striving. This is the most peaceful, quiet, calm film. Yes, it's true. The character runs into some folks who make his life more complicated, remind him of painful things in his past, but it doesn't change so much the way he lives, actually. And
he's content.
There's a modesty, too, and an acceptance.
That is also not a very traditional American concept.
No.
This is a foreign film, and clearly you get the idea that contentedness and sereneness, sometimes people think of that as the opposite of ambition, but sometimes the ambition is to experience that.
Yeah, and to experience what you achieve when you accept what's happening. You don't fight it, you don't struggle. Wim Wenders is an amazing filmmaker, and it's even more incredible to me that this film, which he directed, is made in Japanese with a Japanese cast, filmed in Tokyo. The Japanese liked it so much that it was their entry in the 2024 Academy Awards. And he's just a fantastic director. And the lead actor who plays, it sort of pains me a little to say toilet cleaner, because he's such a special character. He won a Best Actor award at the Cannes Film Festival, and he's just an amazing performance. So.
It's another example of a story that reminds us we are not what we do for a living. We are much more than that.
Yes, exactly.
Now, that said, obviously there's a little bit of a potential tie-in here. As I mentioned, at the end of your current Inprint season, you are retiring after more than 30 years at the helm of Inprint. Are there elements of this film? Am I reading too much into it that maybe resonate with you in a different way because you're about to step away from that role?
Oh, it does speak to me. I'm ready to let go of so much, actually. I am one of those people who frets. And if you do as many events as we do, and you have as many different programs going, it's easy to fret most of the time, and fretting is not very much fun. And so I'm really ready to have kind of a fret-free existence and do other things. I'm a poet, and I would love to be able to really focus on my work and do some other writing as well.
So. Yeah, earlier this month, Inprint announced a Poetry Buskers endowment in your name. What is the Poetry Buskers program?
Oh, it's one of my favorites. We established it at the suggestion of Suzanne Tice, who was the program director at Discovery Green. And she said, don't you have some typewriters and, some poets can come down to the park for the grand opening and write poems on demand? And we said, okay. So we schlepped over the IBM Selectric, which is a 50-pound machine.
Yeah.
And we set it up, and they wrote poems on demand, and it was a big hit. And we've been doing it ever since. We've of course got lightweight plastic electric typewriters.
I would hope by now, yeah.
And but they appear at public festivals and events and at schools, and we put a tablecloth down. They wear their Inprint Poetry Busker T-shirts. We have a little bit of signage saying, "Give us a theme, we'll give you a poem," and off they go. And the poets love it, and they write in English and Spanish, because there's not only the great poets, and you don't have to be a poet to be a poetry busker.
Right.
You just have to be open and ready and willing and a good writer. Anyway. Yeah.
Good writers is something else that Inprint is certainly known for bringing a lot of them in to speak over the years. Are there any particular examples that come to mind as you think back on the last 30 years as, wow, I can't believe that happened. How amazing was that?
Well, there are a few. It was great just to have George Saunders here for the fourth time. And he was also our Wednesday night, and he was also our virtual gala speaker. He was in his basement in Syracuse. And I think one of the most memorable things that happened was when Salman Rushdie was finally able to tour after the fatwa was supposedly called off. This is in 2001, and we were the fourth stop on his book tour, and the night was 9/10. 9/10/2001.
Yeah, we talked with him about this earlier this year.
I know. We just had him in January. It was a great conversation. And he's just a wonderful person. And, we really bonded with him because he was stuck here for several days. So he stayed in a Manil house, and we brought him nice Vietnamese food, and we had great conversations. And he got together with some wonderful community people, and he's come back 4 times also.
Those are just a couple of examples, but I mean, you had dozens of more than dozens of award-winning authors roll through over the years. So terrific.
We're very fortunate, and we have really good relationships with the publishers, which helps a lot. So.
The Movies Houstonians Love screening of Wim Wenders' Perfect Days will take place at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston's Brown Auditorium. This is tonight at 7 o'clock. There's a link to more information at houstonmatters.org. The film is presented by Rich Levy, Executive Director of the literary nonprofit Inprint, who after more than 30 years there retires later this year. Rich, thanks so much for talking with us.
Thank you, Craig. It's been great fun.
And that will do it for today's show. The Houston Matters team includes Michael Haggerty, Joshua Zinn, Brenda Valdivia, Mincho Jacob, and Laura Walker. Jared Carroll's our technical director. Remember, you can check out Houston Matters anytime. You can subscribe to our podcast for the audio or visit Houston Public Media's YouTube channel for the video. Check it out whenever you're free. On Monday's show, it will be the first Monday of the month. That is when we set aside time to sweat the small stuff in another round of Houstonian pet peeves. Send yours now or through the weekend to talk@houstonmatters.org or get ready to let loose live on the air Monday morning. Also Monday, we'll discuss the Astros at spring training, how the ABS or Automatic Ball Strike Challenge system is going so far. We'll also preview the World Baseball Classic. Some of the tournament's games will be played starting next week at Dyken Park, and a few Astros are taking part in it as well. We'll discuss why others are definitely not. I'm Craig Cohen. Have a great weekend, then join us Monday for those and other Houston Matters.
Next time on the Music Archive Showcase, Rock and Roll's Wild Child, Little Richard, An Appreciation.
Richard Penniman, to my mind, is the greatest